All right, it's 5:10. We will be calling the special call City Council meeting of Tuesday, September 6th to order. Mrs. Bach, would you like to call the roll, please?
Mr. Fletcher?
Here.
Ms. Graves? Here. Mrs. Turner?
Here.
Mr. Kramer?
Here.
Mayor Winger?
Here. Mrs. Bach, we have two items, 2A and B. Would you like to read A, please?
Yes, sir. An ordinance of the City of Vero Beach, Florida, providing the levy of ad valorem taxes for the fiscal year 2014-2015 at a millage rate of 2.0336, which equates to 2.0336 per $1,000 of assessed property value.
Mrs. Lawson.
Mr. Mayor and members of council, this is your final public hearing for the budget for fiscal 2014-2015. Your first order of business tonight is the millage resolution that Tammy just read or ordinance that Tammy just read the title for. The final budget that we're proposing for adoption is funded at the prior year millage rate of 2.0336, which is actually 3.08% more than the rolled back rate, which is 1.9728, and that is the rate that you adopted at your tentative hearing on September the 3rd. As we discussed at that time, the reason for the increase is a combination of increased costs of operations to provide the desired levels of services, particularly in the general fund, and kind of a net decrease in some of our state revenue sharing. With that, both this and the next item, the budget, are public hearings, so the public needs the opportunity to speak and ask questions before you adopt these measures. And with that, we'll turn it over to you to answer any questions you might have.
All right, this is a public hearing. Is there a member of the public that would like to come forward?
I have one question.
Come forward.
Mr. Chair.
Name, address, we know who you are, but we need it anyway.
Well, I've been gone.
It has been a while.
Good to see you back.
Welcome.
Hi, Jay Tonkel, live in Grand Harbor, resident of the county, obviously. Continue to follow with interest the deliberations of the City Council, although I have been gone, excused absences from the Utility Commission. I did have a couple of comments to make with respect to the budget and the headlines, and I just looked at a summary the other day. Cindy was, as usual, well-informed and advised me earlier about some of the cost factors, which was welcome, and I appreciate your explanation. I've noticed again that, unlike a year ago when I attended most of the budget meetings, the City Council continues to rely on largely on the enterprise funds to produce additional revenue, as opposed to even considering any change in the millage rate for the residents of the city. And while I can't get into any specifics given the short time, I think that philosophically, at least, that's something that hopefully this council will continue to look at and evaluate as time goes on, and not be seen as simply like the rest of most of the politicians in this country. The second thought I have, and the question that's been sort of something I've wondered about for some time, is the allocation methodology. How all the indirect costs are allocated, on what basis. I assume there's spreadsheets that indicate what that is, and I won't take the time to go into it tonight. But I've never asked the question before. I've never heard it discussed at the Finance Committee. I've never heard it discussed at the Utility Commission. And I think it is something, at least, that the public deserves an answer to, as to whether or not they agree with the allocation methodology that's being used, and whether or not the enterprise funds, particularly the electric fund, is paying, quote, its appropriate share of overhead and allocated cost from the rest of the city. So I simply leave that as a thought, and perhaps if when it's convenient, we could sit down and have a discussion about that, and I could make a determination whether I think that I'd like to take it further and bring it back in front of the public.
Yes, this hearing is only on the rate, and the first part of what you said is applicable to the rate. The second part is applicable to the construction of the budget, which comes in a minute. So,
I won't come back and repeat
well, no,
myself.
you
But
can't come
actually,
back and repeat. That'll be perfectly fine.
And if you want, I'll address that real quickly at that time.
Okay.
Because there is
Yeah,
a bit
we'll
of an
address
answer.
it but we're required to address one subject at a
I'm
time.
sorry,
I didn't.
I
No,
didn't
no,
understand
that's
it.
okay.
Okay, thank
It's
you.
a good question. Any further public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Any comment from council or a motion as you see fit? Motion to approve.
Second.
Mrs. Bach?
I will read Section 1 and Section 2. The City of Vero Beach, Florida shall levy a general ad valorem tax of 2.0336 mils against the value of all real and tangible personal property within the city limits subject to taxation on the first day of January 2014 to finance current operating expenses of the city. The tax shall be levied and collected in the manner provided by law. Section 2, the fiscal year 2014-2015 operating millage rate of 2.0336 levied hereby is greater than the rolled back millage rate of 1.9728 mils by 3.08%.
All right. Well, the motion is referring to what Mrs. Bach just read. I got ahead of myself a bit, and it has been seconded, so I guess we can vote on it. I'll call the motion. Mrs. Bach?
Mr. Fletcher?
Yes.
Ms. Graves?
Yes.
Mrs. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Winger?
Yes, so it passes 5-0. Mrs. Bach, 2B, please.
An ordinance of the City of Vero Beach, Florida, adopting the annual budget of the city for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2014, and ending September 30th, 2015, appropriating funds for the operating expenses, supplies, and personnel, and otherwise appropriating funds for the efficient and effective operation of the government of the City of Vero Beach and its departments. Such appropriations being from anticipated revenue, providing a means to amend the annual budget to carry forward the funding of purchase orders, work orders, and grants outstanding as of September 30th, 2014, providing a means to amend the annual budget to reflect grants received after September 30th, 2014, and authorizing the transfer of funds appropriated so long as the total combined appropriations shall not be increased, thereby providing an effective date.
Mrs. Lawson, please.
The budget that you have in front of you is essentially the same that you saw at the tentative public hearing, with one change. At that meeting on September 3rd, you directed us to increase $30,000 in the budget for recreation in both part-time salaries and operating costs to fund some additional lifeguard hours of operation at the city's guarded beaches. And so that change has been made to the budget that's before you for final adoption. No other changes have been made. To briefly address Mr. Tonkel's question, we did actually talk a little bit about the G&A allocation at our last Utility Commission meeting where we addressed the SWOT analysis. Where possible, that G&A allocation to other funds, not just the electric, but all other funds, is based on something concrete. Example, the allocation of HR costs, human resources costs, is based on the relative number of employees in each of the other divisions. So there I have something, objective to hang my hat on. Cashier costs are allocated on the basis of how much cash is taken in by the cashiers for each fund relative to the others. In the case of something where there has to be an estimate of time spent, like the city attorney, for instance, the department has a look at that and gives me what they think is a reasonable percentage of their time. And so we are happy to provide details about each and every department, but we do think we have a reasonable basis for the allocation in accordance with accounting practices, and I'd be happy to review that with anyone who'd like to have a look at it.
And you'd be willing to sit with Mr. Tonkel, correct?
Absolutely.
And he's willing to sit with you, correct,
Very
Rock?
good. And we can look at the detail. Not a problem. And so with that, again, your public hearing, and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I have a comment, but let's do public hearing first. Is there anyone that would like to come forward? Seeing no one, close public hearing. And before my comment, Mrs. Bach, do you have anything else you have to read into this?
No, sir.
One comment I'd like to make, and I'm not trying to change the budget, but I am trying to make a suggestion. Today I went out and looked at Leisure Square. I'm sure I could do it with other facilities like River House. And I believe we have in for Leisure Square, we have about $200,000 in for a roof and so on. Is that a correct number? Or
We
roughly?
have finally budgeted about 270 over across the next 5 years.
But if you look at this facility, and I'm just going to list a bunch of stuff, and I'm not asking anyone to do anything about it, but I think it's important. The roof and soffits are in bad shape, which you do have in the budget. The soffits are rotted out, and water and black stuff is leaking down. You can't put up the awning because of it. The lighting everywhere in the building is all, at least the 3 buildings, not the newer building in back, is obsolete, rusted, and doesn't produce the proper amount of light. The rails behind the main building are rusted, need paint. The dance room and the breezeway halls and columns are all rusted out and look poor. The pool deck needs painting and cleaning rather badly. The pink tile in the main lobby of the main building is kind of not really good. The bathrooms, all 6 of them that I could find, at least, and actually there are more than 6 because there's 2 in the building where some of the training occurs. They need work badly. They're badly outdated and so on. Air conditioners, there's more old air conditioners and questionable air conditioners. The exercise machines, many of them have been gotten from other institutions, but many of them are beyond the useful life. The racquetball floor needs resurfacing. The pool capping around the side of the pool has got objectionable stain or mold on it. We have in the budget re-marcinating the pool, which needs to be done. The metal railings are in bad shape. We don't have the awning up because the soffits are in bad shape. The parking area needs work, and on and on. And I'm sure we have other tired structures. And all I'd like to say at this point, I'm not trying to change the budget. The budget is what the budget is. But I would like to see City Council at another session possibly do what we did on looking at the parks to go in the charter and appoint one city council member, to work on this and work with a team, Rob and so on, because I think it's clear that in the upcoming budget, the one after this, we're going to have to address what I can only call deferred maintenance. There's got to be at least $250,000 of deferred maintenance beyond your roof and what you've got in the Leisure Square alone. And I think we know in some of the other buildings we've got the same. So I have no solution for it tonight, but I wouldn't like to make the suggestion that I think some one of us into the future, as Ms. Graves did with the charter and as was otherwise done, should kind of take it as a special cause because we can do better. That's all I have to say. Mrs. Turner.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, you remember back earlier on in the budget programs, I had tried to encourage Mr. Slezak, our recreation director, to bring some of these capital projects forward. And to be fair to him, because of tight budgets or whatever, he was reluctant to bring any of these things forward. And I agree, some of it we certainly have gotten behind on and need to jump forward. I would ever ask Mr. O'Connor if it'd be possible with any of our facilities group
the answer
to be able
is yes.
to address some of these minor maintenance issues.
Yeah, some of them are not minor, though. I mean, when you start doing bathrooms as an example.
No, certainly I wouldn't expect that.
But yes, our crew out of Public Works, they can run an inventory of, and not only Leisure Square, but other facilities that they would recommend. That we do some modifications because we do have a lot of outdated equipment. We've sort of hung on to what we had, and as the mayor indicated, we've taken hand-me-down, the weight equipment, and other things in the recreation have been that way. So,
and actually, the Public Works Department did help Rob with the preparation of some of these estimates for the money that we did put in. For the first time in a long time, at the encouragement of council, we have put in a fairly significant amount of money for recreation. It's over 200, doing a quick number, 250 or 270 in the coming fiscal year, and across all the years, probably averaging about 200 to 150 a year. The real problem that we have that we've talked about is it's competing for the same scarce resource money that we're doing drainage and sidewalks and streets and everything else with, which is our 1 cent sales tax money. So we talked in the budget hearings about some potential solutions, and hopefully over the coming year we'll have some good news about ways to free up more of that money and at least have some more available to us. But it's definitely a concern.
I think Mrs. Turner is right. I mean, there are some things like painting rails and so on, and cleaning the top of the coping around the pool that simply need to be done. And there's others like the bathrooms that simply need to be replaced, and they're not in the budget, and so be it. But I think your point is correct. There are two classes of problems here.
I think the bathrooms are in for 17, 18, unfortunately. The bathrooms are in there, but they're not in there for a couple more fiscal years, and they're certainly in poor shape right now, I would agree.
Yeah, and the swimming pool's 15.
It's 15, yeah. So,
yeah.
That's a couple of years more.
No further comment. Yeah. Any other comment from council?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a few comments about the budget for the public. First, I want to thank Ms. Larson and your team, as well as Mr. O'Connor, for bringing forward a budget that was within our millage, as requested by council. Did want to note that we have that our pension costs were gone up 16% for the coming year, and I know this is our effort to try to continue to reduce our unfunded pension, and I think I estimated it somewhere around $6 million overall, and all the pension contributions. Just correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean this is huge. I mean, when we take in $4 million in property taxes, and we're looking at $6 million, and we're to try to catch up with pension. I also just wanted to call for the public's attention that the budget does include an estimated 7.5% in our power costs for the electric utility. And although we are looking at a net decrease of positions citywide, I still strongly object to increasing personnel in our general fund. And this budget includes 2 additional positions in our general fund.
Further comment from Mr. Fletcher or Mrs. Graves, either one of you? Mr. Kramer?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there a second? All right, I call a motion. Mrs. Bach?
Mr. Fletcher?
No.
Ms. Graves?
Yes.
Mrs. Turner?
No.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Winger?
Yes, it passes 3-2. I don't believe there's any further business for the session, Mrs. Bach?
No, sir.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn until the regular session at 6 o'clock.
Move to adjourn. Second. That's my
We are
motion.
adjourned.